Today, almost every country in the world is in debt. America's debt has exceeded $38 trillion. The European Union's debt is enormous. Japan's has been at an unbelievable level for many years. Even powerful economies like China, Germany, and Saudi Arabia are countries deeply entangled in serious debt. And people can't help but ask, if everyone owes this much money, who do they actually owe it to? This is exactly where the strange side of the issue reveals itself. Because this is not a problem as simple as it looks from the outside. In fact, what we call debt is not just missing money. It is one of the strongest reasons why today's world works the way it does. Wars, depressions, economic rises, collapses. Under most of these things, you will always find the debt system. And when you dig a little deeper, you begin to realize something. The world is not actually in debt to just one person or only one country. The world's biggest debt is to itself. But of course, there is one detail here that should not be ignored. Not everyone profits in the same way. When and how did this system begin? To understand that, we need to go quite far back. The government debt system that all of us know today was actually born not from economics, but from war. In 1694, England was at war with France, and the state treasury had begun to hit rock bottom. Gold was not enough. So the king went to merchants and nobles and asked them for a loan. But this was not just any loan. The state basically told them this: you give me gold now, and in the future I will pay you back with interest from taxes. And to keep this system running, the Bank of England was established. This is where things began to change, because from that point on, the state was no longer only spending the money it actually had, but also the money it assumed it would earn in the future. That was a very big deal, because as a result, something new emerged: the word of the state. Back then, the government was basically saying, I owe you money, but don't worry, you'll get it back. And that promise could now be documented and sold. So this is how today's government bond system was born. Then everyone started using it. England used it. France saw it and did the same. The Netherlands added its own improvements and developed it further. America used the same system during and after the War of Independence. And over time, government debt stopped looking like something bad. On the contrary, it started to mean this: this country is trustworthy. So, as unusual as it sounds, it's true. A lot of the time, being heavily in debt does not necessarily mean being in bad shape. Sometimes it can actually mean using the system to remain powerful. Because what matters is not just being in debt. What really matters is whether people still trust you enough to keep lending to you. So who keeps track of all this debt today? Let's look at America, for example. People usually think like this: China is America's creditor. Yes, that's almost true. But only a small part of it. Most of America's debt is actually held by American banks, pension funds, investment firms, insurance companies, and even the Federal Reserve itself. So the system is a bit like this. The government creates debt. Banks buy it. The central bank sometimes buys it back. Citizens pay taxes. And the interest flows back into investment in funds and retirement accounts. So money keeps moving around and around inside the system. That is why, in many cases, this is what really happens. A country is, to a large extent, indebted to itself. And this is not something that applies only to America. There's a huge global "you give to me, I give to you" system today. Countries lend to one another directly or indirectly. For example, Japan buys American bonds. America channels money elsewhere through the IMF. Europe lends to developing countries. Those countries then take their foreign currency reserves and invest them back into Western bonds. So from the outside, the system looks huge and strange. But at its core, it is kind of like this. Everyone has made promises to everyone else. And that chain of promises has expanded so much that it has become one of the main pillars of the global economy. It's like a game where everyone is sitting at the same table, but most of the chips were actually borrowed. And that game depends on only one thing: nobody panicking. If this helped you see things from a new perspective, don't forget to subscribe. The answers are hidden within history. I'll help you discover where to look.